Hello guys, let us now learn few basic Excel formulas that will help you save a lot of time while working in an Excel. The first one that we are going to look at are the manual calculations. In manual calculations, I'm going to teach you how to add, subtract, multiply and divide certain numerical values on your specific cells that has been selected, which will help you to do some mathematical calculations. For these formulas, we will look at a sample data that has been provided in column G. So let's go to these formulas and understand how do we do these formulas using our Excel spreadsheet. So the first one is manual calculations. So the first manual calculations, always remember something: whenever you are entering a formula, you need to start with an equal to symbol. So on cell number L10, I'm going to input a formula. So I will start with an equal to symbol. The first thing that I'm going to do is add certain selected cells. So from row number 4 to row number 9, I'm going to do some manual calculations, and I will teach you how to do that. So if you want to do a manual calculations, you just need to select the specific cells that you want to add. So let us say I want to add row number 4, L4. So equal to L4, you put a plus symbol and add the next one, again a plus symbol, add the next one, again a plus symbol, add the next one, and then once you have selected all the relevant cells that you want to add, you just press enter, and as you can see, the total of these rows has been calculated. You can also, if you don't want to input or calculate it in a specific cell and you just want to see what is the total of these rows, all you need to do is select the range of cells. So I want to find out what is the value from L4 to L9. I just need to select these cells and I would be able to see the sum at the bottom of the Excel. It also shows an average and a count as well for the data. So this is addition. Now let's say you want to do a subtraction. So subtraction, again you start, this is a formula, so you start with an equal to symbol. Instead of the plus symbol, you input a minus symbol. And you press enter. You can see that all the data that has been there from L4 to L9 onwards have been subtracted. If you want to multiply, press equal to and then put the star symbol and then again input the star symbol wherever for whichever data you want to multiply, and as you can see, the data has been multiplied. If you want to divide, let us say I want to divide 500 divided by 10. I put the backslash symbol and then divide it. As you can see, my sale value divided by the selling price per unit gives me the quantity. So when I divided it, I just put the backslash symbols, slanting slash symbol, which will help me divide the data. So that is all about manual calculation. The next one I'm going to teach you is to do a sum. So in the addition, we individually selected the cells that we want to add. There is another way where you can easily select the range of cells and quickly calculate the sum. What if the data that you want to select has like more than 100 fields or 100 cells? So you can't individually select each and every cell and manually and then add them to find out the answer. Instead of that, what you can do is you can put an equal symbol and put the sum formula. So as you can see, whenever you input a sum formula, you put equal to and type in SUM, and it shows the various ranges of sum formula that is available within the Excel. And whichever you select, you just need to press the down arrow button, whichever you would like to select. So if I want to select SUMIF, I can just press the down arrow button and the blue cursor goes to the SUMIF. SUMIF input formula. And a small definition about this formula is also given. So as you can see, for sum, it's mentioned adds all the numbers in the range of a cell. So you will get an idea of what this specific formula does. So once you type in sum, you can either press tab to open this bracket and select that particular formula, or you can also manually include the bracket button. And then you need to select the range of the cells that you would like to add. So I would like to add from L4. I click on L4, press my left arrow button and drag till the column that I would or the row that I would like to add. So on column L4 to L9 I would like to add, so I have selected that range in the sum formula, close the bracket, press enter. As you can see, it calculates the sum. I can also easily calculate this by pressing the Alt equal to button. So if I press the Alt equal to button, then what it does is it quickly sums up all the data that are numerical fields on top of your column. So if you are inputting the sum formula or pressing Alt equal to inside cell L10, it calculates every numerical data that is present from L9, the one above the cell that you are inputting the formula, till the top row of the column, whichever is a numerical content. So as you can see, since L3 is not a numerical content and it's a text number or it's a text input, that's why it is not calculating, it is not including in that specific range as well. Once you press enter, as you can see, the sum is easily calculated. So an easy way to add this range is by inputting an Alt equal to buttons, thereby easily calculating all the numerical contents in that specific column. The next one is SUMIF. So in SUMIF, it adds the cells in your specific range, however, with a condition attached to that particular formula. So what it does is, let us say we have the data over here. So we have product A, product B, product C, product D, and product C, etc. We have customers China, USA, and India, and we have the quantity, the selling price, and the sale value. Let us say I would like to add everything that is only for China, the sale value for China. So what I can do, I can easily use a SUMIF condition. So a SUMIF condition, the first thing, as you can see, is to select the range. So range means where the condition is at place. So as you can see, the condition is based on the customer data. So that's the range that we are going to select. So your range should be from China I4 onwards to I9, and then you put a comma, and then the next one is a criteria. What is a criteria? You would like to add everything that is in China. There are two ways where you can input a criteria. You can manually enter the name of the criteria you want. So you can manually enter by starting a double inverted comma and input China. One thing to note here is the spelling and the formatting. Is this case sensitive? And as well, the spelling, if they are wrong while you are typing it, it will not calculate the data. I will show you that after we input this formula. So you can manually enter the name of the condition that you would like to input or the criteria that you would like to input. The next one is sum range. So which column you would like to add. So I would like to add all the sale values. So from your L4 onwards to L9, you can add them and input so that it adds only the one which are China with the condition. So it adds only the data, whatever the sale value, it doesn't add everything. Instead of 1850, it is just adding only the China customers. So the China customers are on row number L4 and L5. So if you add them together, it is 900. So as you can see, a SUMIF is an easy way to add certain numerical fields based on a specific criteria and you can easily calculate it rather than manually checking which are the data which is present, which is meeting your condition, and then adding them together. Now, another way you can add this is that instead of writing down manually, you can select the data. So as you can see, you have inputted China. You can select that particular data and then press enter. So if you see the criteria on here, I have not manually inputted it, but rather I selected the cell which says China, right, where my criteria meets, and then I press the enter. So as you can see, there also it calculates. Now, one thing to note here is, if let's say I input a case sensitive, it still calculates. So it's not based on the condition of case sensitive. There's no case sensitive option. So even if your data is in small letters, but the manual input you're doing in capital letters, it will still calculate. But however, if you mention the spelling incorrectly, instead of China, if I remove SCHI, then it doesn't calculate. It just shows you a 0. Now let us say I would like to copy this formula to another column or another row. So I copied this particular formula and I inputted it in the next row, and as you can see, the calculation is going incorrect. So instead of China, which is 900, the calculation is going incorrectly to 400. And to see what exactly the formula is, you just need to press F2 to that specific cell, so it pops up the formula. And as you can see, the data has been selected incorrectly over here. However, the data on my previous cell, it is correct. It's been selected incorrectly. So why did it select an incorrect data when we copied that same formula into another row? That is because your Excel is now understanding that you would like to input a formula to the next row. So if you don't freeze your ranges, which is your criteria range and your sum ranges, what Excel does is it copies the formula from the previous cell and inputs the formula, but however, to how many number of rows you have copied it, it just drags down the range along with it. So since we copied the formula just one row below it, the column has been the same, but the row has been copied down one row below it. So instead of from I4 onwards, it's been copied to I5 onwards. Instead of L4, the sum range has been copied from L5 onwards. If I just copy this, let's say from L15 row, if I just copy it to the next cell, as you can see, the data is completely changing. So if I don't freeze the columns and rows in my ranges, the formula automatically copies those ranges and adds on the ranges to the number of rows you are changing or number of columns you are changing. As you can see here, since we copied the formula from the same row to another column, the formula as well copied the range from I column to J column. It moved that particular formula range from I column to J column. It moved your sum range formula, sum range from L column to M column. Since you copied from column L, the formula column L to the next column, column M. If you just put the same formula 2 or 3 columns after, as you can see, the formula automatically, your ranges automatically adjust to the cell that you have copied the formula. Easy way to resolve this is by freezing the formula ranges. So how do you freeze it? So to freeze it, all you need to do is go to that range, select the range and press F4. So I will show this from scratch. So I want to select this particular range. I have selected from I4 to I9, and if I press F4, as you can see, there is a dollar symbol that is added to my column and row, and for both of them my dollar symbol has been added to the columns and rows. Now what it does is it freezes the rows as well as the columns, which means your formula range doesn't move within this specific range. Wherever you copy this formula to whichever column, whichever cell you are now going to copy the column formula, this range doesn't move. So China and select the range and then press F4, and it freezes the column as well as the rows. Now if I copy the formula down, as you can see, nothing is happening. The range is frozen and it remains the same. Now there are few things that you need to understand here, is that when a dollar symbol is inputted to the range, the column of the range as well as the rows of the range. So here this is the column, I is the column. So if a dollar symbol is inputted just before the column, the column freezes, and if there is no dollar symbol next to the row, so let's say we can just input the freeze symbol only to the columns but not the rows, I just need to press F4 again. So if I press F4 again, as you can see, the dollar symbol is changing. Now the dollar symbol is there only in the rows but not in the columns. If I press again, as you can see, the dollar symbol is inputted only to the columns but not the rows. So what it says is, the columns, when you remove the freeze action from the rows but it's there in the column does not change. So if you copy this formula to another column, it will not change. But if you copy the formula below the rows of that specific range will change. So to give you an example, if I copy this and let's say I inputted it in M19, as you can see, there is something wrong with the formula. What has happened? As you can see, the column is not changing. Even though we copied the formula from L16 to M18, the column is not changing according to the formula. So the column is remaining the same. However, as you can see, the rows are changing. That is because there is no dollar symbol, or the frozen symbol is not available on the rows in my range criteria. Now if I just input instead of the if I freeze the rows instead of the columns, let's see what happens. So if I just change into the same row but to a different column, as you can see, the formula is changing. However, if you see the row, it does not change. So if I input it here, the row is stagnant. Even though we change the row to two rows below, the rows are not changing. The row data range for the rows are remaining the same. However, the column has been moved from column I to column K. So always remember, if you want to fix the column and rows of the data, there should be dollar symbol next to both the range, the columns as well as rows in your range criteria for your SUMIF. A very good and powerful formula, and which is quite frequently used everywhere. So that is SUMIF. Now let us say the next formula, which is average. So average, similar to sum, you can also average your specific data. So here we have added all the ranges or all the data from L4 to L9 onwards. So that is 1850. Now let us try to average all these columns. So if I take the average and select it, as you can see, it shows an average of 308. And we can verify this by selecting the range and seeing the average on bottom below. Average of selected cells are 308. Generally, averages are not quite frequently used, but it's again a very powerful formula similar to that of sum. The next one is count formulas. So we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 count formulas that I'm going to teach you now. So what is count formulas? The count formulas counts the number of cells in a range that contains numbers. So as you can see, it counts only the number of cells in a range that contains numbers. It doesn't count any text inputs. So it counts only the numbers. Then you have count A, which counts the cells that are not empty. You have count if, that counts the cells with a specific condition, and count blank, that counts the cells that are empty. So these 4 formulas that I'm going to teach you have different features attached to it, and we will be looking at it one by one. So let's go to the first one as count. So let us say we want to count the number of data from L4 to L9 onwards. So I'm going to do a count and selected the range and pressed enter. As you can see, there are six cells with a numerical content in this particular range. Now, what if I want to count the text values? Press enter. As you can see, it's not counting. So the count symbol or the count formula just counts the number of cells or the number of datas present in a specific range only with a numerical content. So it counts only the numerical content. Now another one is count blank, count A, I'm sorry. So if you want to count A, what count A does is it counts all the data which are not blank. So let us say I am selecting from J4 to J10, there is one blank number, it still shows me as 6. As you can see, even though I selected the range as entire column, it just counts the ones which are having a data in it. And another feature of this particular count A is it counts not only the numbers or the numerical values, it also counts the text values. So as you can see, there are numerical data present in this particular column 6 times, and the row 3 has the text inputs. So as you can see, it counts not only the numerical but also the text values. What about count blank? Now count blank counts the blank cells in your range. So if I am selecting a range from J1 to J10, I know that there are 3 blank elements or 3 blank cells in that specific range. So J1, J2 and J10 are blank cells. So it shows me the blank data in that specific range. Now if I count the entire column, it will tell me how many blank elements are there in that specific column. So as you can see, there are more than 10 million or 1 million blank elements in that specific column. So that's what the count blank, count A and count symbol does. What about count if? So count if counts the number of cells with a range that meets the given condition. So again, similar to SUMIF adds your values or SUMIF adds all the numerical elements. COUNTIF just counts the data based on a condition. So I want to count how many times China appears in this data. I know that by looking at it, there are 2 times it appears, but let us see whether the formula is working properly. So I'm going to count again China. So count if, select the range. So the range are this. So here I can select the entire column as well. So I'm going to select the entire column, and always remember to freeze it if I don't want the column to move, and if I'm inputting or if I'm copying the formula to multiple columns or multiple rows, I don't want it to move. So I have frozen the particular column. Now what is my criteria? My criteria is China. So as you can see, China is appearing twice in that data or in that column, and it's calculating correctly. What if I want to count the product? So let's say I would like to count product D. So count if and select the entire column, freeze the column and type in the product that you would like to calculate. So product B. So as you can see, product B appears only once, and that is correct according to our count if formula. So we learned now the count formula, which counts the numerical cells in that range, and count A, that counts the cells that are not empty, count if that counts the cells with a specific condition, and count blank, which counts the blank cells in a specific range. The next one is trim. Whenever you might receive a data, there could be trailing blank spaces in a specific cell. So to remove a blank space, you can use an easy formula called as trim. So let us say here, as you can see in this specific cell that I have highlighted in yellow, contains a trailing blank space just before the data. So there is space and then trim is the data. So now I would like to remove the blank spaces in that specific cell. So I just need to input equal to trim, and as you can see, there is a rationale or an explanation that is provided for this formula. Removes all spaces from a text string except for a single spaces between the words. So trim, I just input the trim formula, open the bracket, select the cell where I want to remove the extra spaces, close the bracket and press enter. As you can see, the extra space has been removed. Now what if I have multiple spaces or 2 or 3 more spaces between a specific data? So I will show you that lively right now. So let us say removes empty spaces in a cell value. Let us say I put additional space between empty and space. So I use the same formula to cut down this space between empty and space. So I just select the cell and put trim, and as you can see, it keeps one space between the text strings and removes any extra spaces. So the space between empty and spaces have been cut short to have only one space between them. Let us say I have inputting my name with multiple spaces in between, and I use the trim formula, select the cell, press enter. As you can see, the multiple spaces between my first name and the second name has been removed to include only one space between them. Very, very, very useful and simple formula that can be used. The next one is concatenate. Concatenate joins several text strings into one. So what it does is, let us say I would like to join product A and China together. So I can include concatenate. So input start with the equal to symbol. Concatenate formula joins several text string into one text string. Press tab so that the formula is appearing. Select the cell you would like to concatenate. I would like to concatenate product A. Select that cell. Then you press a comma. Select the next cell that you would like to concatenate. So I would like to concatenate product A and China. Close the bracket and press enter. As you can see, product A and China has been concatenated. Now one thing that you would have noted here is that there is no space between A and China. Product A, the A and China part has been concatenated together without a space. How you can add a space between product A and China? I need a space between A and China. So for that, I need to manually include a space by opening a double inverted bracket. I will show you how to do that. So you press equal to, concatenate, select tab so that the formula appears now with a bracket. Select the cell that you would like to concatenate first, input a comma, then you open a double inverted bracket. Wherever you want to enter something manually in a formula, you start with a double inverted bracket. Once you open a double inverted bracket, press space, input a double inverted bracket again to close that specific manual text. You press the comma, select the next range that you would like to concatenate, that is China. You close the bracket, press enter. Now if you compare whatever is there in cell D12 and E12, there is a space between A and China in E12 and no space between A and China in D12. So this is how you can use concatenate and include a space, whereby manually inputting a double inverted commas, pressing the space bar and closing the double inverted commas, you can include a space between the two strings that you would like to join. A simple yet a powerful formula tool. The next one that I would like to show you is a proper function. We will come to the if functions in a minute, but let's talk about a proper function. So what is a proper function? So a proper function, let us say you have a names in your data range and you want the data range with the names without the uppercase capital letters. So in here, if you see in this data C14, my name is mentioned, but all the alphabets in my names are in uppercase. So Prasanth Sankar is completely in uppercase. Now I don't want uppercase alphabets in my data. So what I can do is I can just include a proper function where I input equal to, put a proper functions. As you can see, it converts a text string to a proper case. However, do note something, that the first letter in each word in uppercase and all other letter in lowercase. So if I select the proper function and select the range that I would like to convert into a proper function, close the bracket and press enter. As you can see, the first letter of my first alphabet of my first name P is in uppercase, and the first alphabet in my second name, which is S, is also in uppercase. Do note something, that your proper function, if everything is in capital, let's say an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Now, one thing to note in proper function is that the proper function does not convert everything into lowercase alphabets. However, it keeps the first alphabet of every word in the uppercase. So if you convert the proper function and select the word that you would like, cell that you would like to convert, and if you press close it, enter, as you can see, every letter, the first letter of your word is in the uppercase, but the remaining letters are in the lowercase. So an apple, so A in an and A in apple are in uppercase, everything else in lowercase. A day, is in uppercase, day, D is in uppercase, keep, K is in uppercase, the, D, TH is in uppercase, doctor, D is in uppercase, and away, A is in uppercase. So this formula is very useful if you have names in your data set, but for sentences to convert them into lowercase, I would not suggest this formula. So proper function, a simple function where you can convert your names in your data set to a proper names with lower cases, and the first letter of the first name and the second name will be uppercase and the remaining ones will be in lowercase. The next one are if condition. So if condition, what it says is, it checks with if your specific cell meets and returns the condition that you are inputting. So let us say I will go to my data here, and I would like to see if my data, any of them contains, let's say, China or India. So let us say what I can do is I can select if, and there is the first thing that you're going to do is a logical test. So you're going to test whether the specific range that you're going to select is the condition that you would like to input. So let us say I want to check whether this is equal to India. So what I will do, I select that range, so the customer is equal to India. And if that cell is India, I can put true, or I can input yes, and if the value is false, I can input no. So what this function does is, it selects the range, it checks the range. So the range is I8 or the cell is I8, and it checks whether the condition is met. So what is the condition that you have inputted? The logical test, whether that specific cell I8 is called as India. So if this cell is India, then it will input the values that you would like to add. So here I want to show them as yes. If it is India, if I8 is India, show it as yes. If I8 is not India, then show it as no. So now if I press enter, it shows as yes. So what if I, instead of this range, if I select, let's say, this range, as you can see, the formula changes because the cell I6 is not India. Now how you can use this formula? if conditions can be used with multiple formulas, and that we will learn in advanced formulas. And you can also get to learn how to use ifs and nested ifs, that is multiple ifs using together in your formula, and analyze your data. For that, you can attend my workshop and get to learn quite a lot of formulas that saves a significant amount of your time. So that's what if does. It checks whether a condition is met and returns the value that you would like to input for if the condition is true, and the value that you would like to input if the condition is false. Okay guys, now let us look at certain advanced formulas that will help you launch your career and work in much better way with your Excel data. Here I have 6 important formulas that I have included, which helps you to start your career in an Excel, and these are the basic things that you need to know where you can analyze your data and get a better results out of them. So the first one is a len formula. So what len does is it returns the number of characters in a string. So to give you an example, if you see on cell number D5, you have a word apple. How many letters are there in apple? A-P-P-L-E, 5 letters. So what len does is it simply shows what are the number of characters in that specific cell. So we have 5 letters and apple. What if I increase to say apple a day? So as you can see, the number of characters increase. So it's counting the number of letters which are present in that specific text string. So APPLE 5, a space, it also includes a space, A and then A, which is total 3. So 8, 9, 10, 11. Day has 3, so total 11. So please do note that len also counts the space in between them. So len is a good formula which you can use to count what are the number of characters in a specific text string. Now when you grow with your Excel career, there could be cases where you want to take a specific data within a text sentence. So let us look at here how we can do that. There are 3 formulas which helps you to take a specific word from a text string and give you the result. So to walk you through, there are 3 formulas that I'm going to talk about are left, right and mid. Let's look at what left does. So left returns a specified number of characters from a beginning of a text string. So here we have an example which is today is Sunday with a question mark. So I don't want is Sunday words. I just want the word today. How do I do that? I can input. First I need to understand where the word is. So the word is at the beginning of the sentence. So today, the word that I want today is at the beginning of the sentence. Now, when I do that, I need to first understand that which formula I need to apply to get the word today. So here, the best formula that you can apply is a left formula. Why? Because today is the first word in that specific sentence and you need that first word. So left formula returns the number of characters you want from the left side of a string or a beginning of a string. So today is at the beginning, so you can input the left formula. How will we input that? I will just show you. So you put an equal to symbol where you want your formula to capture. Manually type left so the formula appears there. Press tab so that the bracket opens for where you can start inputting your formula. Here the text means which text you want the characters from. So that is your D6, which is your cell 6. From that you input a comma and see how many characters you want. So today has how many characters? It has 5 characters. So if you input 5 and close your bracket, as you can see, it shows you today. Now, if I want only 4, I just want TOD, the first 3. If I input 3, as you can see, it just gives you 3. What if I increase the characters to 6? It's still today, but it also is counting the space between them. So it will be today with a space. What if I include 7? So you can say today and with a space and I. If I include 8, it will give me today is. So if according to which character, which word I want, I need to specify the number of characters in that word. So today has 5 characters. That's why I specified the number of characters as 5. In my advanced Excel workshop, you will be able to learn how you can get the word without specifying the number of characters, and we will show you how you can tell Excel to calculate the number of characters for each word by itself. The next formula is right. So similar to your left formula, where your left returns your number of characters from a beginning of a text string, right returns the number of characters from an end of a text string. So if I want, let's say, Sunday, instead of the word today, I just want the Sunday with a question mark. All I need to input is right, select the text string which has that particular word, input a comma, and keep the number of words. So Sunday has how many characters? 6 characters, and I want 7 of them. I input 7. So Sunday with a question mark comes in. If I just input 6, the problem here is it starts from the right end, and as you can see, the letter S has been removed. So it just gives you from the question mark, it counts the 6 characters. So 6 is still U. So UNDAY with a question mark. Now, what if I don't want, today, but I want is Sunday? I can use the word mid or use the formula mid. So what mid does is it gives you the specified number of characters from the middle of a text string. So again, if I put instead of left and right, I put mid. I select the cell where the word is, and I need to select the start number. So this particular word that I want starts from which number? It starts from the 7th number. From the left, if you include today, it has 6 characters, and with a space 7 characters. I don't want the 7th character. So we are telling Excel to start from the 7th character, put a comma, and how many characters you want. You say 2. It gives you the S word. So it starts from the 7th character. So today is first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it removes the first 6 characters, and it starts from the 7th characters, which is I, and if you just press 2, it gives you the 2 characters that you want. So it just gives you I and S. So similarly, if I want is Sunday with a question mark, I can input with number of characters to whatever I want. Let's say 10. It gives me the number of characters starting from the 7th character and ending till the one that I want. So now let's continue and look at the remaining 2 formulas, which are Vlookup and index match. So Vlookup and index match, what it does is it looks at or finds things in a table or a range by row, but only looks up from the leftmost column and with the column number you specify. So Vlookup helps you to find certain things from a data set and inputs in the cell that you would like to input the formula, and gives you the data for the column that you specify. But however, one important thing that you need to notice, that it only looks up from the leftmost column of the data set. The next one is index match. Index match will help you to find the data set even if your column is on the right side of your condition or on the left side of your condition. So index match is a substitute to the Vlookup and helps you with a more powerful way to identify certain data, even if your data is on the left side or right side of the condition criteria that you specify. So to understand Vlookup and index match, let us go to a sample data. In this sample data, I have a serial number, item code, product type, customers, and the selling price per unit. So I have just selected a few data from the sales data here and summarized and inputted here with my requirement, according to my requirement that I want to present to my management. Now here, as you can see, there are approximately 7 data sets, with an item code, product type, the customers and the selling price per unit. Now, however, my management would also like to see the cost price for this unit. So the cost price per unit is also required for this specific data set. They also want to see the product type from the purchases data. Now we will look at how we can use Vlookup and index match to get the cost price per unit and product type for this unit from the purchases data. Here we have only the sales data. As we can see, only the sales price per unit is available and the product type is mentioned. Let us look at whether the same data is available in the purchases data or not. To begin with, for Vlookup and index match, one thing you need to note is to find a unique identifier of your data set. So if I go to my purchases data and my sales data. So in my purchases data and sales data, I have few things that are common, which is the product type, the supplier, etc. and even the cost price per unit. But one thing that is very unique to these purchases data and sales data is the item code. So the item code that we have in the purchases data and the sales data will be unique. Each line item will have separate item code. As you can see, none of them are repeating. The characters are different for each of the line item. However, the characters are same in your product type and the characters are same in your supplier information, etc. So to use Vlookup to function, you need to identify a unique identifier where in your data set, which is not going to repeat itself in the rows. If it's going to repeat itself, the Vlookup function will throw different results than you expect. And hence, in your data set, the first thing you need to do is to identify a unique identifier. In my data set, the unique identifier is item code. So I have included from the sales data my item codes and my product type and customers and the selling price per unit. Now I'm going to look up the purchase price or the cost price per unit from my purchase data. I'm going to easily do this by inputting the Vlookup formula. So I start with by pressing the equal to button to initiate a formula. I type in Vlookup. So as you can see, Excel will show you the result itself, Vlookup, and it gives you what this particular formula does. I just press tab to initiate the formula with a bracket. In my lookup value should be the unique identifier that which I have identified. So the unique identifier is the item code. So I put the item code, and remember something, always freeze the column that for your criteria. You put a comma and select the table where you have the data. So I need what? I want the cost price per unit from the purchases data. So cost price per unit from the purchases data. I go to the purchases data. I know that the cost price per unit is on column F. My item code starts from column C. So I need to start with column C because your Vlookup starts or identifies or returns the value based on the leftmost column. So from the leftmost column, it gives you any column to the right. So your unique identifier column is where you need to start your table array. So you will start with item code, drag it till where you want the data, or you can drag it for further as well. But I'm going to drag it till the cost price per unit. And as you can see, there is something that's mentioned here, which is your row. So if you can see on the just above your column, on your column F, there is a row that's mentioned 1048576R multiplied by 4C. What it mentions is the row and the column. So this data that I have selected has 1,485,776 rows and it has 4 columns. So from which column I need the data is on the 4th column. And for Vlookup, for this particular data set, I'm going to ignore the rows in place. I just need the column data. So I have selected from column C to column F. So how many columns are there? 4 columns, C, D, E and F. So there are 4 columns, and that is what is mentioned on the small box above. So I have selected the formula, selected the table range. I freeze it so that it doesn't change, so that the formula doesn't carry along, or the range doesn't carry along where I copy the formula to another cell. I put a comma and I know that I need the 4th column. That's what we looked at, because from purchases data, your item code was on column C, and you wanted the cost price, which is on 4th column. 4 as number, which is the 4th column that you want, and press whether you want the approximate match or the exact match. You can do a 0 so that it gives you the exact match. Close the bracket, press enter. As you can see, for this product, for this item code 123457, it has returned the data in column F. Now I want the formula to repeat itself to every line item in this data. So what I can do, I can put a copy, drag the formula and paste it, and it is repeating. Now I told you earlier that there is a reason why I am not freezing the row and the column but only the column. In my Vlookup, if I freeze the row, the formula will not copy to the next rows. So I'll show you that. So if I had frozen this column, my criteria for the column as well as the row, and if I copy it, as you can see, the criteria is not moving one row below. However, in this, the criteria is moving one row below. And the reason why I froze the column is because if I want to move this formula to somewhere else, it will still show me the same formula. Rather, if I did not have the frozen in my criteria column as well, if I move it to another column, as you can see, it is the criteria cell that I have identified has moved from item code to product type. It moved one column left because I copied the formula from one column P to another column Q. So always remember to freeze your rows or column according to your requirement. Now, if you can see from row 1, serial number 1 to serial number 6, the formulas are working perfectly well. It's bringing all the data sets. However, in here, in serial number 7, which I have highlighted in yellow, the data set is not functioning. It's showing me an error, and all the errors are identified using a hash. If your result starts with a hash, which means the formula is not functioning according to your requirement, there is an error. Now, the reason why there could be an error is either you have inputted the formula incorrectly, or the criteria that you have selected, the lookup value that you have selected, which is the item code, is not there in your data. So your item code, the formula worked for all of the above rows. However, for this item code 123456, this formula is not working. So which means there is nothing wrong with the formula, but rather this item code is missing in the purchases data. So let me quickly see if that particular purchases data contains item code 123456. So I go to the purchases data, I select the entire data set, I apply a filter using my shortkeys that I have taught you, and I check whether the item code is there. So as you can see, the filter doesn't show up and it says no matches found. So that's the reason why this particular line item is throwing you a error. So just by looking up, you will be able to identify if there is any issue with your data set that you are trying to present. Now let us say, so as you can see in my purchase code, in my purchases data, my item code is left to the column I wanted, which is cost price. So which means Vlookup will function in this particular data set. because your item code is on the left and the data that you want, which is cost price, is on the right. However, I want, let's say, product type from the purchases data, which is on the left of your item code and not on your right. If you put VLOOKUP with this, it will not function. Let me just show that to you. So VLOOKUP with the criteria of item code, and I select the column C and drag to the left and say 2 and put 0 because it's on the second column. I have 2 columns in my range and I want the second column, and I press 0. As you can see, the formula is showing me an error. So VLOOKUP will work only if your criteria range is on the left of the data that you want. If you want product type, the criteria is on the right column of your product type. It would have worked if the item code was on the left of your product type, before the product type. However, in this function, it will not work. So what you can do, you can use another formula, which is index match, basic index match. Let me show you how to put index match. So you put equal to, you type in index, and it tells you what it does. So it returns a value or reference of a cell at the intersection of a particular row and a column. So it gives you something. That's what it says. It gives you something. I selected index, and this I need which data I want. Which data I want? I want the product type. So I select the column. I need to select the column which I want, which is the product type within the purchases data. So go to the product type, select the entire column, freeze it so that it doesn't move. Then you put a comma. Now once you put a comma, we put another formula which is called as match. So returns the relative position of an item in an array that matches a specified value in a specified order. So to function your index match, you need, this is a combination formula. Index is one formula, match is another formula. Index gives you the data that you want for a specified row number. Match gives you for which column or which row number you want this data. So we put the index and then we put the match symbol. So now in match symbol, first you need to put, similar to your VLOOKUP, you need to input your lookup value. So what's your lookup value? My item code, which is my unique identifier. So unique identifier, my item code, freeze it, only the columns, put a comma, go to my purchases data. What is my lookup array? Column C. So that's the criteria range. I select that, freeze it again. Now the match type, it should be an exact match. So exact match is designed by 0. Put closing brackets. Now this closes the bracket for what? For your match symbol. Now the column number you don't want because you need only the row number. You need only the row number because you want index to give you the data in the row. And that row is identified using the specific column. So you do that and close the bracket again so that your index formula is also closed. Press enter. As you can see, your VLOOKUP did not function because your product type in purchases data was on the left side of your criteria range index item code. However, index match helps you to find the value in your purchases data, which is on the left hand side of your item code. Now you copy this formula to everywhere, and as you can see, on all rows it's functioning except row number 7. So it's showing an error because this particular item doesn't appear or is not available in my purchases data. So the next one is, we have understood now the basic lookup and the basic index match, a powerful tool which can kickstart your career. What we learned in the previous examples were if conditions. What if I don't want the formula to work on every line item or every line item code? I want the cost price to appear only for product D. So I want the cost price from purchases data sheet only for product D. So what I'll do, I can use an if condition. Press an equal to, input if. First you need to do a test. Check whether the line item, this particular row, this item code is product B. However, we will input the formula. So this particular cell, whether it is product D. So I type product, I select the cell, I put equal to, and I put the double inverted commas and type product D, close the double inverted commas. Now that comprises of my logical test. To see if this logical test is functioning, you select the logical test entirely and press F9. Once you press F9, as you can see, it shows the result. So it's false. So the logical test is functioning correctly. What it says is whether this particular cell which I have selected, M6, is containing product D. So as you can see, it is not containing, and the logical test is giving you the desired result. So once you press F9, it will show you the result, and if you press Ctrl Z, it will go back to the original view. Put a comma and what is the value that you want with true. So if this cell M6 is in fact product D, I want to look up the cost price from the purchaser's data. So I do a Vlookup. So if it is true, I want it to Vlookup the item code with range, with column frozen, go to the purchaser's data and select the range which is from column C to column F. So item code starts from column C, so I need to start from that, from the leftmost column to the rightmost column, or which column till the column you want. So I want cost price, so I selected till cost price. I froze the range, put a comma and select the number of columns, the column that you need, which is the fourth column, and press 0, close the bracket, press enter, and it shows as false. The reason why it shows false is because this particular line item is not product D. So the true condition is not functioning, rather it is ending up with a false. So let us say if it is false, if this particular logical test fails, if it is not product D, then I can put the value if false. I can say value false, I can say no. And I close the double inverted, close the bracket and press enter. As you can see, it says no. So this line item does not contain product D. Hence, the true statement does not work. Now, I can drag this formula, copy and paste it everywhere that I want. So as you can see, the formula is now functioning for all the line items that I have specified. So from row 1, line item, serial number 1 to serial number 7, the formula is functioning well. And as you can see, only line item 2 to 5 contains product D, and only to 2 to 5 the cost price is correctly captured, which I have highlighted in blue. For all other line items, which is a product A or product B, the cost price is showing as no. If I don't mention anything in my false formula, it will just mention as false. So Excel automatically populates it as false. I can mention whatever I want. If I don't want it to show as false, I can mention it as nil or not applicable, anything that I want. So as you can see, the formula is functioning well for all the data sets except row number 7, line item 7, because the data set is not there in your purchases data. Now, the next one that I would like to teach you is about if error. As you can see, I don't want to present to my senior management about this line item. I don't want to show them this, and I don't want to see that, there are hash NAs over here, and I don't want to show that to them. So what I can do? I can use an if error function to get anything from my purchases data and input it without the hash NAs to populate. For that, we will use if error function. So let us try out if error function, what it does. So I put an equal to symbol. I start with the formula if error. So if error returns the value if error if error, if expression is an error and the value of the expression itself otherwise. So it checks whether the value is an error. If it is an error, it will help you and it will overrides that feature and adds the value whichever you want to choose from. So I'm going to choose if error and I'm going to look up the data, a specific data from my purchases data set and using the item code. So here in my item code, I do the Vlookup, frozen the column from my criteria, go to my purchases data, and let's say this time I want the date of purchase. So I selected from item code all the way to date of purchase, and as you can see, it is the 6th column. Item code is column 1, supplier 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6th column. Freeze my range so that it doesn't keep moving. Put a comma and say I want the 6th column from this range, and put a comma, select 0 and press and close the bracket. So now the Vlookup function is completed. Now I need to tell if the particular data is not there in my purchases data tab, what I will do. I want to show them as a blank. So to put it as a blank, I can say open a double inverted commas, immediately close the double inverted commas without a space. It will show me a blank. As you can see, the date of purchase is getting captured or is shown for line item 1 because the data is available in line item 1. Let's copy the formula to all the data, and as you can see, from serial number 1 to serial number 6, everything, the data is captured except the one on serial number 7 where the data set is not getting captured, and instead of error on column P with a Vlookup, with a basic lookup, now it is removing that error and manually overriding whatever you want to include. So since I included a blank element with just 2 double inverted commas, it's showing me a blank. If I don't want a blank and say data not found, I can just open the double inverted commas, type in whatever I want to type, and then it manually overrides the error with the specific data not found. So this will help you to present to anyone without these hash NAs, which are a bit odd to be presented on your data. By this, we have come to the conclusion of the session, and if you would like to learn more from me, please do register for my workshop where I frequently conduct this workshop specifically for the finance professionals, and it's a 2-hour sessions and talking about the basic formulas and functions that will help you to kickstart your career, various advanced formulas customized by myself to generate certain efficiency. You will also be able to practice what you learn with the live data sets and examples that we provide, and interact with me and discuss all your questions and concerns. I'm also going to talk about the pivots, and hence if you would want to register for this, visit my website and reach out to me via my contact number, or you can even drop me an email.